My twin brother came to my door injured and petrified. What he wanted from me altered everything. He was sleepless, struggling to breathe. And when he asked me to replace him, to live his. Hi, I'm Mason, 31, and the moment my twin brother showed up on my doorstep covered in bruises was the moment I quit being the quiet one. He looked like he'd gone a few rounds with a baseball bat and come out the loser, busted lip, swollen eye, ribs so tender he could barely breathe without flinching, and this hollow look that told me he hadn't felt safe or rested in months. My brother, now named Logan, had always been the smoother talker between us, the charming one who could melt tension with a grin. So when he asked me to trade places with him for a little while, to step into his life, his home, and even his name while he ran from whatever hell he'd been trapped in, I didn't hesitate. Logan had married a woman named Jenna 5 years earlier. From the outside, they had that picture-perfect suburban setup, steady job, cute kid, a 2-story house with a fenced yard. But the fine print came with her brothers, Wyatt and Aaron. 2 walking slabs of arrogance and bad ideas stuffed into button-downs, the kind of guys who think bullying passes for bonding and intimidation counts as affection. They'd been making Logan's life miserable for over a year. It started with cheap shots, calling him soft, a beta, an office drone. Then came the drop-ins, bursting into his house, barking orders, raiding the fridge, flipping the TV while his little girl, Emily, tried to watch her dinosaur shows. Jenna never stepped in. Sometimes she even laughed. Eventually, they escalated to laying hands on him. Wyatt used his fists like exclamation marks. Aaron played backup, pinning Logan down and whispering threats about custody battles and what courts tend to believe when a man says he's being abused. They were strategic too, aimed mostly for the torso, nothing too obvious. But they didn't plan on Logan having a twin with a sharp temper, a solid strategy, and nothing left to lose. Sliding into Logan's life felt disturbingly easy. We were identical right down to the faint scar on our left eyebrow from that bike wreck back in '97. I studied his routines, chatted with Emily about her favorite dinosaurs. Mr. Stompy, naturally, made dinner the way he did, even shuffled around in his old slippers. Then I waited. And when Wyatt barged in that first night without knocking, strutted straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer like he was the rightful owner of the place, I just smiled. And hit record. He was bigger than both of us, but definitely not brighter. He stormed around making cracks about real men and sneering at the leftovers I was heating up. What's this, quinoa? Figures you marketing types are all soft. I hunched my shoulders and played it small, giving him the same quiet compliance Logan had described. I let him puff up and mock me for 20 minutes. He shoved me into the fridge door once. Hard, but not hard enough to bruise anywhere noticeable. I stumbled, muttered an apology, kept my eyes down. Inside, I was already checking the camera angle in the hallway. When Jenna got home, Wyatt flipped the charm switch. Suddenly, he was the doting brother, asking about her day and offering to help with groceries. The smug little wink he shot me behind her back nearly had me vaulting over the counter, but I didn't bite. I rinsed plates and pretended nothing mattered except gathering evidence. Logan had asked for 7 weeks. I gave him 9. Every visit, the camera rolled. Every shove, every insult, every veiled threat saved to the cloud. When Aaron started dropping by on Saturdays, I played clueless while he poked through finances and suggested, with this fake friendly smile, that maybe Emily needed stronger male influences. I filed that under threats, too. I built everything into neat folders, spreadsheets, synced backups, audio recordings, timestamps, screenshots. It wasn't just a case. It was a fuse waiting to hit the powder. By week 5, I had bruises matching Logan's. By week 6, I had video of Wyatt pinning me against the garage wall, spitting in my face, telling me I was lucky he didn't break my jaw. Aaron hovered just out of frame, arms crossed like he was guarding the door of some shady fight club. Jenna? She noticed the bruises once. I said I slipped on the stairs. She shrugged and went back to scrolling her phone. That was fine. I didn't need her to believe anything. The reckoning date was already set. Jenna's parents, Harold and Linda, were hosting a big family dinner, 40th anniversary, lots of relatives, the whole deal. Wyatt and Aaron would be there. Everyone would. And so would a projector, a USB drive, and 2 uniformed officers waiting right outside for my cue. I didn't just want to expose them. I wanted to dismantle them in front of everyone who thought they were decent men. On the night of the dinner, I put on Logan's gray button-down and his nervous half-smile. Jenna looked radiant in some soft pastel dress, looping her arm through mine like her whole world wasn't crumbling behind the scenes. Emily skipped ahead in her dinosaur sneakers, blissfully unaware of how much her life was about to change. Harold and Linda's house was crowded. Balloons, catered trays, relatives filling every corner. Wyatt and Aaron were already loud and comfortable in the living room, beers in hand, acting like kings of the place. When they spotted me, Wyatt smirked. Well, look who finally found a backbone. Aaron lifted his beer. Nice shirt, Logan. Try not to ruin it tonight. I gave them a polite nod. You boys look settled in. Then I walked to Harold. Mind if I say a few words after dinner? Put together a little slideshow. Of course, he said, clapping my back. Glad you're stepping up. Dinner went how dinners in dysfunctional families always go. Too much noise, too many fake smiles pretending everything wasn't held together with denial and wishful thinking. After dessert, Harold tapped his spoon on a glass and delivered a warm, meandering toast about 40 years of love. People clapped. I stood. Hey, I said, holding up the tiny remote. I've got something to share too. Something about protecting the people you love. The TV screen lit up. The first clip rolled. Wyatt barging into the house without knocking, grabbing food, shoving Logan against the wall, barking insults. Clean audio. Perfect angle. No ambiguity. The whole room froze. Clip 2 rolled next. Aaron in the garage, holding me down while Wyatt swung at me, laughing like it was some kind of inside joke. Gotta make sure the little beta remembers his place. I heard Linda gasp. Harold's fork slipped right out of his hand. Clip 3 played. Aaron leaning in close to me, smiling like a snake. What if Emily had a little accident one day? Kids are delicate, man. The fourth clip showed Wyatt mocking Jenna's cooking, saying she only married Logan because she couldn't land a real man. Jenna went ghost white. She had no idea that moment had ever been caught. 12 minutes. That's all it took to blow an entire family to pieces. When the screen finally went black, I spoke calmly. These two men have spent over a year tearing Logan apart. And all of you, every single one of you, let it happen. You ignored it. You excused it. You handed your loyalty to two bullies because they made you laugh at barbecues. Wyatt shot to his feet. You're making this up. This is edited. This is out of context. I stared right at him. Explain the context where it's acceptable to beat your sister's husband and threaten his kid. Aaron turned toward Harold, voice cracking. Dad, come on. Harold didn't move a muscle. His face looked carved out of stone. Should I call them in? I asked. Jenna whispered, call who? I nodded toward the doorway. Two officers stepped inside, steady, quiet, professional. One of them held a folder. Wyatt Sanderson, Aaron Sanderson, you're under arrest for assault, criminal threats, trespassing, and harassment. The sound of the cuffs closing echoed through that dead silent room. Wyatt's eyes bulged. We'll ruin you, he hissed. You're dead. I smiled. I'm not Logan. His face twisted in confusion, like his brain hit a pothole. Too late. I stepped forward. I'm not Logan, I said again. I'm Mason, his twin, the one you forgot existed. He froze, looked around like he might find a time machine in the corner. Aaron looked sick, sweating, shaking, already blaming gravity for existing. Their parents just stared, like someone had yanked the floor out from under their whole understanding of the world. I've been living as Logan for the last 9 weeks, I said. I took every shove, every threat, every cheap shot, and I recorded all of it. Jenna's mouth was moving, but no sound came out. The bruises you ignored? That was me. The officer stepped in and started reading Miranda rights. Wyatt kept yelling. This is illegal. He's impersonating him. This has to be fraud. The cop didn't even blink. We're not arresting the twin, he said. We're arresting 2 grown men who turned someone's home into a battlefield. Aaron muttered something about lawyers and defamation until the second officer cut him off with a flat, save it for the arraignment. They were marched out in cuffs, past stunned relatives, down the driveway where their oversized SUVs sat like useless props from their old lives. No one followed. No one defended them. The room stayed painfully still. Then Jenna stood up, voice trembling. You lied to me. I nodded. Your husband came to me beaten and terrified. He couldn't survive another day of it. And you never even asked him what was wrong. You just let it keep happening. You're just his brother, she snapped. You don't know our marriage. No, I said, locking eyes with her. But I know what abuse looks like. And I know what it means when someone chooses comfort over truth. Harold and Linda sat frozen. Linda was crying quietly. Harold looked like he'd aged a decade in one night. I've already filed Logan's divorce paperwork, I added. Sole custody. Full protection orders. Logan will never be in the same room as those men again. Jenna dropped into her chair, stunned silent. Emily, thankfully at her babysitter's that night, would never see those men again. That much I'd make sure of. I looked around the room. I'll be in the car. If anyone wants to apologize, call Logan. But don't expect him to pick up anytime soon. Then I walked out of that house like a ghost stepping away from a fire. One they all helped spark. Jenna moved out 2 days later, not because a judge forced it, not yet, but because the air itself felt too heavy to breathe. She packed 2 suitcases, eyes red and swollen, and climbed into her mother's minivan without saying a word. The house shifted the moment she left, like something poisonous had drifted out the front door with her. Logan came home a week after the dinner, still limping, still glancing over his shoulder in parking lots. But when he stepped into his own home again, he wore this look I'll never forget. Fear and relief tangled together, like he didn't trust the ground under his feet. He walked through each room slowly, like he was afraid touching anything might break the spell. The first thing he did was scoop Emily into his arms and hug her until she squealed. Then he sat down on the couch and cried. Not the soft kind people show in movies, but the raw kind, the kind where your whole chest caves in under the weight of everything you survived. I stood in the kitchen and let him have that moment. Some things you don't interrupt. He moved into a small apartment across town soon after. 1 bedroom. Safe. Warm. I helped him put in a keypad lock, motion lights, a camera by the door. A place where the only people who came through the door were people he trusted. We transferred everything, closed joint accounts, updated Emily's school info, filed the custody paperwork. Jenna hired a lawyer, of course, but we had already brought in a firm of our own. The evidence was undeniable. Her silence, her refusal to step in, her complicity. It was all right there on video. I'll never forget her expression during mediation when the judge asked, flatly, "You saw the bruises and didn't ask why." Jenna tried to cry. The judge wasn't moved. Sole custody granted. Jenna would have supervised visitation twice a month. At a center, with a caseworker present. Outside afterward, Logan hugged me like he was finally exhaling a year's worth of fear. "You gave me my life back," he said. I told him no. "You let me borrow it long enough to fight for it." That week, we burned everything to backup drives and locked them in a safe, just in case. But real closure came when Emily, sitting cross-legged on the rug in Logan's new apartment, looked up and said, "Daddy, can we stay here forever?" It's quiet. The quiet was what saved him, and the noise was what destroyed everyone else. News travels fast when it's both ugly and true. 3 days after the arrests, a recording from the dinner, someone's shaky phone capture of the slideshow, leaked online. It showed Wyatt shoving me into a wall, clear as day, the audio sharp enough to cut. It spread before any of us could brace for it. Local news picked it up, then read it, then a national morning show talking about abuse against men and how often people brush it off. The irony was brutal. After everything he endured, Logan was finally being seen. Jenna's workplace saw it too. A medical billing office doesn't love being tied to someone who spent a year enabling 2 violent men and staying quiet about it. HR labeled it a disruption to professional integrity. Translation, fired before lunchtime. Wyatt and Aaron didn't fare any better. Before their cases even reached trial, both were jobless. Wyatt's construction company suddenly restructured, and Aaron's sales firm dropped him for ethics violations. I doubt either will find work anywhere outside a bait shop, or maybe on a poster warning people about anger issues. Their mugshots circulated everywhere. But the image that stuck with me was them sitting side by side in court, matching orange jumpsuits, listening while the charges were listed off like a grocery receipt from hell. Assault, battery again, criminal threats, trespassing, child endangerment. I had printed evidence stacked up like a prosecutor's buffet table. Jenna's lawyer tried spinning some nonsense about her being caught between loyalties, unaware of the texts I had. Messages where she mocked Logan's melodrama and told Aaron, he always gets over it. He'll be fine. The judge didn't appreciate that. Logan barely spoke in court. He didn't have to. His body told everything his voice didn't. The medical reports filled in the rest. I only spoke once at sentencing. I said, men don't stop asking for help because they're stubborn. They stop because no one listens the first time they whisper it. My brother asked once. I heard him. Now these men get to hear the law answer back. Wyatt got 18 months in county. Aaron got 14. Anger management, probation, and absolute no-contact rules with Logan or Emily. Jenna cried in that courtroom, but it wasn't for Logan. It was for herself, for her reputation crumbling like a kicked sandcastle. Just like that, the wolves finally lost their teeth. After sentencing, everything seemed to breathe again. The air in Logan's apartment didn't feel heavy anymore. Emily laughed louder. Logan stood taller. The man who used to move like he carried ghosts in his ribs now whistled while washing dishes. Healing didn't show up all at once. It came in stubborn little pieces. But for me, the rage stuck. I'd lived inside his life, worn his name, taken the punches meant for him, and walked around with humiliation that wasn't mine. When it was over, that anger had nowhere to go. It just sat there like old smoke in a sealed room. Then a letter arrived. Not a text, not an email. A physical letter in some fancy envelope, thick cardstock, embossed initials, way too much perfume. It was from Linda. It said, "We didn't know. No, Mason. No, Mason. No, Mason. If we had known, we would have stepped in. But now you've taken everything from Jenna, her marriage, her job, her dignity. I hope you're satisfied." I read it, and read it again. Then I folded it neatly and fed it to Logan's shredder while Emily watched cartoons in her dinosaur pajamas. Afterward, I called Logan. He answered on the second ring. "She thinks you lost something," I said. He was quiet a moment. Then he said softly, "She's half right. I lost fear." That night Logan came over. We sat on my balcony with beers, no agenda, just breathing air that didn't feel like poison anymore. "You know," he said, "when we were kids, I always figured I'd be the one protecting you." I smirked. "You still might, just not from anyone who throws punches." We didn't dig into the past. Not in detail. It was behind us now. Courts had spoken. Locks were changed. Cameras boxed up. But Logan looked at me and said, "You gave me a future." "No," I told him. "I gave you back your now." And that was the first moment I felt the anger finally slipping off me, like I'd been carrying someone else's weight and didn't realize I could drop it. It should have ended there. But abuse doesn't stop just because the bruises fade. One evening, Logan called. Not frantic, just too steady. "She showed up," he said. "Jenna." At the park during my pickup with Emily. I grabbed my keys and drove. By the time I got there, Jenna was leaning against her car, arms crossed, eyes swollen. Emily was safe. Off with the caseworker, happily chasing butterflies the way kids do when their hearts haven't learned fear. Jenna didn't yell, didn't beg. She just looked hollow. "I just wanted to see her," she said, without supervision. 5 minutes. To talk to my daughter like a normal mom. I stared at her. "You gave up normal a long time ago." She asked about Wyatt next. Said she missed him. Said he was funny. I felt something cold run down my spine. "She remembers the clown who gave her candy," I said. "Not the man who treated her dad like a punching bag every time she wasn't looking." Jenna winced. "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. "They're my brothers." "And he was your husband," I snapped. "Emily's father. And you let him bleed alone because you didn't want conflict." "I was scared," she cried. "No, you were complicit." She stared at me, really stared. "You're not him. You're colder. Harder." I didn't blink. "You made him that way." She reached into her purse and handed me a little envelope. "This is for Emily. For when she's older. Please." I took it. I didn't promise a thing. Then I said, "Go home, Jenna, and stay away. You don't get to rewrite the story now." She left. Quiet. Empty. Finally gone. I turned and saw Logan sitting on a bench, watching Emily run across the grass. He looked tired, but peaceful in a way I'd never seen. Not tense, not small, just free. Like a man who finally felt safe enough to soften. And it hit me then. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about repair. Logan's apartment was small, uncluttered, and, for the first time, his. No footsteps stomping in uninvited. No sudden explosions of rage. Just space. Just air. Just home. No brothers with keys they never earned anymore. Logan painted the walls himself, soft blue, because Emily picked the color and said it looked like the sky on days when the clouds feel friendly. That was all he needed to hear. I helped him build shelves, and we put up a dinosaur nightlight in her room. Mr. Stompy, naturally, now perched on a tiny bookcase lined with picture books and crayon drawings. The custody schedule was settling into place. Emily adjusted faster than anyone expected. Kids know when their world is safe. They grow differently inside it. And Logan, he was laughing again. Real laughter, not the thin, nervous sound he used to hide fear and bruises. We celebrated the court win with takeout and juice boxes. No champagne, no photos, just quiet dignity. He started therapy twice a week. At first, he hated every second of it. Then, slowly, he didn't. I thought being strong meant pretending it didn't happen, he told me once. Turns out being strong is saying it did. And I lived through it anyway. Jenna texted a single time. A picture of Emily from a year ago, dressed like a princess and perched on Wyatt's shoulders. Her message said, "Please don't erase the good memories." Logan never answered. Instead, he printed a photo of Emily holding Mr. Stompy at the park that weekend and pinned it on his fridge. A new memory. He was done mourning the life he thought he had. He was building the one he chose. 3 months passed. The bruises faded. The nightmares didn't, not fully. Logan still flinched when a door slammed too hard. Emily still asked, "Is Uncle Wyatt in trouble?" Like she wasn't sure whether she should be afraid or sad. But healing was happening, layer by layer. Logan started a support group at the community center. 5 men, all different stories, same quiet shame. Some had been shoved. Some had been beaten. All had been told it didn't count as abuse because they were men. He called it the unseen room. Every Thursday they sat in a circle with one rule. You talk, you get heard. The first week, only one spoke. The second week, all of them did. Logan smiled telling me that. "It's wild," he said. "They look at me like I did something brave. But I only did what you did for me." I shook my head. "You survived. I just held the door open." Meanwhile, Jenna stayed silent. The protection order held. No contact outside legal channels. Emily saw her twice, supervised, beige rooms, 1-hour windows. Logan never poisoned her view. He gave her simple truths and let her decide what to hold. The last supervised visit ended with Emily asking, "Can I go home now?" And home meant something now. It meant safety. One afternoon, Logan came by my place with tacos and said he had something to show me. A tattoo, small, on his left shoulder blade. A triceratops. "Mr. Stompy." She asked me to get it. He said, half laughing, half choked up. Said it was so he'd always protect me too. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. That goofy little dinosaur said everything. Emily knew exactly who her hero was. By fall, Logan wasn't just surviving. He was rebuilding. He started a new job at a smaller agency with better hours. The CEO, a single mom, had seen the article about the trial and asked him only one interview question. "You doing okay now?" He was. Not flawless, not unscarred, but steady. We grabbed drinks to celebrate. Just the two of us, first time in over a year. He ordered a whiskey neat. I raised an eyebrow. He grinned. "Don't worry. I sip now. Like an adult." "Terrifying," I said. "Next thing you know, you'll be budgeting." He laughed, then softened. "I didn't think I'd get to laugh again, Mason. Not like this." And I knew exactly what he meant. It wasn't the laugh itself, it was owning the joy behind it. Across town, Jenna was trying to rebuild too, but missing half the tools. She moved in with a cousin and picked up part-time work at a clinic. Word was her parents weren't speaking. Linda blamed Harold for allowing everything. Harold blamed Linda for ignoring it. Neither blamed their sons. That told me all I needed. One day, a handwritten letter showed up. No return address. Neat cursive. Inside, one page. "Mason, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to understand. But thank you for protecting him when I didn't. I thought I was helping. I see now I was just avoiding. And I'll carry that. I hope Emily learns the full truth someday. And I hope she's proud of both her dads. Jay, no excuses. No theatrics. Just a late honesty." I folded it and put it in a drawer, not for sentiment, but for the record. Not every ending needs fire. Some just need closure. Thanksgiving came. Logan hosted. Small group. Me, him, Emily, a couple guys from his support circle, and Linda from his old job, who brought enough pie to feed a county. No speeches. No drama. Just warmth. Emily made paper dinosaurs wearing pilgrim hats. Logan roasted a turkey that looked like it had been to therapy and come out with coping skills. I carved while Emily narrated like some nature show. Here we see the uncle in his natural habitat, slicing the ancient meat beast. We laughed until our ribs hurt. After dinner, Logan pulled me aside, quiet. "I've been thinking," he said, "about those 9 weeks you lived my life." I waited. "You didn't just help me escape. You taught me how to come back. I don't think I could have lived in this house again after what they did to it." I shrugged. "It's just a house." He shook his head. "No, it's the place my daughter gets to grow up with safety, with laughter, with silence that isn't dangerous." Then he handed me a key. "What's this?" "A spare key," he said. "Just in case. You're part of this now. Always. Not just the fight, the peace." It hit me harder than I expected. I took the spare key from Logan and gave a small nod. Later that night, when Emily drifted asleep on the couch curled against my side, I realized something simple but huge. The legacy I'd left behind wasn't revenge at all. It was safety. Logan had started smiling in photos again, real ones. I noticed it scrolling through my phone one night. There he was at a fall festival, holding Emily, laughing at something off camera. No shadows under his eyes. No tightness in his shoulders. Just a man standing fully inside his own moment. I zoomed in and stared for a long time. This was the same guy who'd shown up on my doorstep broken, shaking, barely able to ask for help. And now he was out buying cotton candy and winning stuffed dinosaurs like trauma hadn't gnawed through the last year of his life. That's the part no one prepares you for. Survival isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply waking up without dread sitting in your throat. Jenna hadn't reached out again. Not directly, but word floated back that she was fighting for unsupervised visits. Her lawyer tried kicking up dust. Ours cleared it with a single motion. The court didn't budge, not when every piece of documentation still sat neatly in that folder labeled, "When he was Logan." Once a week, I had dinner with Logan and Emily, Thursday nights. She called it Uncle Noodle Night because I always brought pasta, and she always talked me into doing ridiculous dinosaur voices. Logan didn't say thank you every time. He didn't need to. We'd moved beyond survival. Now we were building something sturdier. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just the brother in the background. I was part of the foundation. It was a Tuesday when Logan returned to his old neighborhood, not for Jenna, not for court, but to help someone else. Ramon, a guy from his support group, was ready to leave his partner. His abuser was a girlfriend, controlling, manipulative, violent in quiet, terrifying ways. He needed backup to collect his things. Logan asked me to come. "You were my spine when mine didn't work," he said. "I want to be that for someone else now." We met Ramon outside his building. The air felt heavy, like the windows were holding their breath. She wasn't home. That was the plan. 30 minutes. In and out. Ramon packed fast, hands trembling, mumbling to himself. Logan helped carry boxes. I handled logistics, 3 bags, 2 boxes, a laptop, and a few precious things people forget they deserve to keep. Photos, journals, a blanket that still smelled like peace. Before we left, Ramon looked at us and said, "I thought being a man meant taking it. Turns out it means walking away without shame." Logan clapped him on the shoulder. "Turns out being a man just means being human." That night Logan texted me, "I finally feel useful again." I stared at the words, letting them settle, then replied, "You always were. They just convinced you otherwise." We didn't save the world that night, but we saved one man's. And that's how revolutions start. Not long after, we got an invitation, not from Jenna, but from Emily's school, Parent and Hero Day. I stared at those words. Not Mom and Dad Day. Not parent figures. Hero. Like someone finally understood families come in all shapes. Logan didn't want to go. Said he didn't want attention. Worried Emily might be embarrassed. Worried kids would ask where her mom was. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Do you honestly think she's embarrassed of the man who fought his whole way back to her?" He didn't answer. But the next morning, he put on his nicest sweater and rehearsed his lines in the mirror like he was prepping for a TED Talk. When we arrived at the school, Emily was waiting by the front gate, braided hair, little Dino backpack, practically glowing. She sprinted toward Logan. "I told them my hero was my daddy," she said. "And my almost daddy too," she added, wrapping herself around my leg. Inside, the kids took turns introducing their heroes, firefighters, nurses, and Uncle from NASA. Then Emily stepped up, nervous for half a second, then bold. "My hero is my daddy because he doesn't let the scary things win. And also my Uncle Mason, because he showed the scary things how scared they should be." The room chuckled. My throat tightened. Afterward, A teacher pulled Logan aside and whispered, "Whatever happened, she's okay now." And Logan just nodded. Later in the car, he said, "She's gonna be fine." I smiled. She already is. The last time Logan saw Wyatt and Aaron was at sentencing. He almost didn't go, said it felt like reopening an old wound just to watch it bleed. I reminded him, "You don't go for them. You go so the last page gets turned." So we sat in the gallery. Aaron came in first. Months in holding had drained him. No swagger left. Shoulders slumped. Eyes down. He couldn't look at Logan. Wyatt walked in second. He still wore that weight room bravado, but it was empty now. A man whose bark had finally been measured against truth and found pitifully small. The judge didn't hold back, called them cowards, predators, said they were lucky Logan hadn't pressed attempted murder charges. Wyatt rolled his eyes. Bad choice. The judge tacked on 6 more months for continued arrogant, unrepentant behavior. Aaron cried. When they were let out in cuffs, Logan leaned forward just enough for Wyatt to meet his eyes. He didn't smirk, didn't gloat. He just existed whole. And that was worse for Wyatt than anything else. Outside, Logan pulled out a match, lit it, and dropped it into a small tin bucket holding a single piece of paper. The ER intake form from the night. He almost collapsed from internal bleeding. "That's the last piece," he said. I watched it burn. No eulogies for monsters. Just quiet justice. Spring came early that year, the kind of early that smells like second chances. Emily planted sunflowers in the window boxes and named each one after a dinosaur. That one's Steggy, that one's Spike, and that one's Kyle. He's the mean one. Logan laughed so hard he nearly spilled the watering can. He'd started dating again, slowly, carefully. A woman named Tessa who worked at the bookstore by his office. She had soft eyes and asked thoughtful questions. Never rushed him. Never flinched when he told her hard truths. When he shared the whole story, she simply said, "I'm glad you got out." And sometimes that's all healing asks for. Someone who witnesses the truth without asking for edits. Me? I felt something shifting. Not bad. Just different. For the first time, Logan didn't need me to hold the line. He could hold it himself. Emily was thriving. Safe. Jenna had slipped into the distance. A ghost unsure who she haunted anymore. And I realized I'd become the guy people called when things broke. Not just doors, but lives. I got 3 messages in 1 week from friends of friends, husbands, boyfriends, sons, asking the same question in different words. How do I get out? So I started writing. Quietly. Anonymously. A blog. A guide. A voice. Not revenge. Not activism. Just the roadmap I wish someone had handed Logan 2 years earlier. Summer came. Emily turned 5. There was cake, dinosaurs, and laughter loud enough to chase every ghost out of the house. Logan stood by the grill with Tessa, relaxed and whole. I watched him laugh at something she whispered and realized he wasn't surviving anymore. He was living. Later, Emily tugged my hand. "Uncle Mason," she said, "were you scared when the bad uncles came?" I crouched beside her. "Yeah, but I was more scared of them winning." She nodded like that made perfect sense. "I'm glad you were brave." I smiled. "Me too." Logan joined us and gently dropped a paper crown on my head. "King of backup plans," he said. "Maybe I am. Because in the end, I didn't just trade places with my brother. I helped him trade shame for safety, silence for strength. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the backup. I became the reason the story didn't end in tragedy. And honestly, that's enough. The end.